The Mornington Improvisers Collective is looking to develop and expand music improvisation with musicians who are from the peninsula, but also bringing people in from outside the Mornington Peninsula. So it's not exclusive, but we really want to develop our local performance opportunities and to involve people who are locally based and give people opportunity to improvise perhaps where they haven't had that opportunity.
We've invited Joanne Cannon to introduce the day's activities, beginning with a workshop. It gets the participants experimenting with their own instruments, but she introduces this with experiences of her own over the decades of experimenting with her bassoon and discovering what sorts of sounds she can express, what emotions she can express by extending the techniques of her bassoon. She also talks about experiments she's done with electronics in collaboration with the bassoon, and opening up opportunities for each of the members of the workshop to explore their own instrument and perhaps to discuss what it is they're discovering in the process.
Up and down and sideways, they're fantastic for manipulating sound.
Our guest artists today are Ria Samajo and Joanne Cannon, and they are both emphasising experimentation with sound. What new sounds, what different sounds can an instrument that is used traditionally to create definitive pitch and cogent rhythm, what weird and wonderful sounds can you get out of those instruments that perhaps you haven't done before, and perhaps those sounds make you feel a bit strange and uneasy and you're not so confident in making the sounds. So the participants here are trying to put together a new piece of music at the same time with sounds that are really quite new to them, that they haven't worked with before. And that's pretty cutting edge improvisation.
Everyone's sharing their own journey, and so some people have started, as you and I have got very different journeys and where we've started and where we've come to, but we've got enough crossover and enough experience to be able to collaborate together. These musicians are sharing how they came to play their instrument and the sorts of struggles they had to get their sounds and the sounds that they discovered within that struggle. And each person in the group has got quite a different journey and quite a different story. I mean, they're all playing different instruments as well, but the sharing is really quite wonderful.
Yeah, they're all being very honest with themselves and with the other musicians in terms of putting it out there to do new things with the instruments and perhaps be quite outside their comfort zone.
That's true.
In many instances, and to get the instrument to speak in a way for them, perhaps in a way that it never has spoken before, and that can be very revealing about not only what the instrument can do, but about what the person as a musician can do, and it reveals an expression that perhaps they haven't encountered before.
Or one that they perhaps haven't done for years because it's something they've moved on from, and then have discovered that perhaps those sounds as a beginner have some value, you know. Sometimes we're trained that this is not how the instrument should be played, and we leave that and we move on to be a bit more standard. So the freedom to say, oh, okay, I can go back to that sort of beginner mind and try something new, and I might fail, but it doesn't matter.
And we're also taught, aren't we, that training in exactitude and beauty and purpose is the fundamental thing about music. And we're sometimes, to be honest, we're asking them to make ugly sounds, to make incongruous sounds, or even almost incoherent sounds, and then to bring that back using form and communication to create a piece of music.
Basically adding it to their vocabulary.
Exactly.
So the musicians have all gone off into different areas of this space to work on pieces that they'd like to present to the audience. And we've got various combinations of instruments, and it's up to the participants. They're actually sort of composing on the spot and then creating a shape, and within that they will improvise once the audience come in perhaps a new way, but they're creating structures for the pieces they're going to present. So one of the things about improvised music making that I've loved over the years is the experimentation with sound source. So what makes the sound? Can I step outside my usual instrument? And if someone hands me something different, how do I behave in a way that's different from my normal musical expression? And so we wanted to give the participants in this workshop that sort of opportunity. And that's where Ria came in.
When the spring is not touching the ground, you'll find that you get the most resonance.
They're called thunder drums or spring drums, and they're very simple. It's a quite tightly wound spring of some length, about 1 metre, that is attached to a little resonating chamber, and usually it's attached through a drum skin or a plastic membrane that allows the vibration of the string to be amplified in the resonating chamber. And the participants are probably encountering these sounds for the very first time as they're handling the instrument, and are thinking, what on earth can I do with this sound? It's, in a way, it's kind of a uncontrollable sound.
Yeah, very stormy.
It's very hard to get definite rhythm from it. It's very hard to get definite pitch, but it's a wonderfully kind of rich and almost intoxicating sound. And so you have to think really differently when you're playing this instrument. And Ria is encouraging the participants to explore different dynamics, different structures, different textures in order to make a piece of music from this instrument together as a group. What's really surprising here is how the participants have taken this instrument and are using it in a really interesting way by manipulating both ends of the spring drum rather than just letting a single end sort of fly free. It's almost like they're using it as one of those tin can telephones to speak with each other. They're sending musical messages through the spring, down the spring, to sort of be received at the other end, and then communicating something back. So there's a real dialogue just within this one little simple instrument.
Today I brought along some of my bells, and I've put them into 2 different pitch groups, and we structured the piece so that they were given signals of when they could play. We discussed between us where the choreography might go, where around the audience they might like to stand. Once, yeah, and the C, and then we've got the D and F.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, and B, yeah, okay, so we got D, F and B. That's one family. And we have one section on that. Participants are playing with these power pole bells, named because I pulled them off the top of power poles. And each of them have a different pitch, a different size, different timbre, and they're finding different ways to play these bells with the beaters and with each other. So it's an experiment in how to respond, how to shape a composition just using a bell and a stick. This is what they're doing. They're moving through the audience. They're responding to what's happening on stage with shakuhachi and with the other performers and with Paul also playing pow bells. So again, it was giving them a new vocabulary, or it is giving them a new vocabulary of sound making by holding a bell rather than their normal guitar or whatever their instrument is. And remember, just one of you comes in. Two of you might start, that's okay, but leave silences so people don't know how many people are going to join in. Give them a bit of suspense.
We're very proud of our participants. They've been so forthcoming and joyous within the workshops, so adventurous, discovering new ways to play music. And now here's a fantastic opportunity for the musicians to share what they've learnt and what they'd like to create in the moment as improvisers with an audience.
Here we go.